Hi everyone, thank you for watching Harsha Trainings YouTube channel, and in this video I am going to explain the concept of web service, and also I am going to explain the protocol SOAP, Simple Object Access Protocol. This video is going to clearly explain you in detail about what is a web service as a universal concept, not only related to Pega. If you are a developer in .NET, or you are a developer in Java, or you are a developer in any other programming languages, like even the tools like Salesforce or even Pega, anywhere, this universal concept is very much similar everywhere. Not similar, it is very much same. Okay, and this is going to clearly give you an understanding about what is a web service, its functionality, and when do we go for web services. And also the second part of the video has the clear-cut information and understanding about the SOAP protocol, Simple Object Access Protocol. So what is SOAP protocol universally? And also the third part of the video has the SOAP protocol and how to implement, what are the different rules to be created to implement in Pega. So as a SOAP service, all the details are being briefly provided in this video. Please go through the video till the end, watch till the end to understand the subject clearly. So we are going to discuss about the concept of web services. This is the topic that we are going to look into. How do I get this? Okay, so what is the topic? Web services. So yesterday I was explaining you why do we need web services and all. So we need web services in order to establish the communication between two applications. I told you an example of one bank application communicates with income tax application requesting tax information of a customer. Okay, customer. So here, in order to request for tax information of a customer from income tax department, bank application has to send one request. In the request, they should have this ID number. PAN. In India, it is PAN ID. In USA, appropriate tax ID will be there. Okay, maybe SSN ID, something like that. So that has to be sent. When this ID is being sent to the income tax application receives this ID, and based on this ID, it is going to search its database. It will get some result. Let's say it has got some result. The results will be again this ID number, comma, name of the person, comma, address of the person, comma, taxation year and tax paid. This type of list data will be sent across. Understand? That is the response. The response that will be sent back will be received by bank application. Bank application use it accordingly to display or to manipulate something. Okay, so this is what overall process is going to happen. See here, the bank application is the one which has initiated the request from its end connecting to the income tax application. So bank application is called as requester or consumer. What do you call it? Requester or consumer application. Income tax application is the one wherein which it is providing a service to other applications. Is it only one bank can communicate with income tax? Any bank, any financial institution, whoever is authorized and have tie-up with income tax department for this specific business reason, all of them from their application, they will be sending so many requests every day, requesting for the taxation information. Correct? So income tax application is the kind of service provider who will be providing the details about taxation information. For every request, they may charge, let's say, something like $1. They may charge $1 from the bank. If a bank is requesting for 100 customers, $100 bank will be paying at the end of the month. Like this is a chargeable service. You are getting a service provision from this one, right? Telecalling service provision from your service providers, Airtel, Jio. In USA, it is like AT&T. Like this, there are different service providers, right? So they will be charging from you to providing the service to make a phone call, so that you can communicate with other people. Understand? The same way, if you have data, if the data is useful for others and you are authorized to share it only for authorized institution, you can have it like a business. There you are going to set up a web service, and your service will receive a request from authorized people and sends a response back with the required details. And you'll be charging for each request accordingly. Okay, either prepaid or postpaid. Requester or consumer, and the insurance application, sorry, income tax application here is called service provider. Service provider, or you may call it as producer also. You may call it as producer. Service provider or producer. Requester or consumer. Whoever is initiating the request is requester. Service provider or producer is whoever is receiving the data. Now let me go to my web browser. This is my web browser. From my web browser, I am making a request to Google server. Okay, so Pega PRPC. Like this, I have made a request. So now Google has responded. Now this browser is a client or consumer or you call requester, and service provider is, who is service provider here? Google is service provider. Google is service provider. So once you hit the URL, it is going to talk to Google server. Once you send the data, it is going to take the data and send a response back. That response you are displaying here in the URL. Understand? So there will be two different applications called as two different parties involved in web services. Party one can be consumer, party two can be service provider. Who will be having? See, whenever there is a request that is being sent to service provider, request should be received and that should be processed to generate output, and processed output should be sent back. For this, we need a software program, correct? That program will be called as web service program. What is that? Web service. So this program should be written by service provider. Income tax department should hire some developers on some technology. They should write one program. The program should be having a capability of receiving a request, searching the database, generating the output, sending a response back. Understand? So that program is called as web service program. So web service is a software program which acts as an interface between two applications, which receives the request, processes the request, sends a response back. So the service, web service should be designed and developed by service providers. And what is that consumers have to do now? A consumer end. Consumers have to create their program which is compatible with their web service. Means consumer should have a capability of sending a request, receiving a response, utilizing the response. For this, consumer end program is required. Understand, everyone clear? Consumer should have sending a request, receiving response. So receiving plus sending, it is there in both ends. Consumer should have to implement sending and receiving functionality. Service provider should have to implement receiving plus sending functionality. Understand? It is required at both ends. So this is called a web service program. Everyone clear? Online resources so far?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so this is a web service program. Next level. See, everyone understand why do you need web service? Tell me one thing. So if an application has to communicate with another application, you will not give direct access. There should be one program that acts as an interface which will make the communication established. The program will be written by whom? Producer or service provider. Producer or service provider will be writing that particular program. Understand, clear, everyone? So now next level. See, two applications are communicating with each other, right? Let's say one application that is trying to initiate the request. Requester is Pega application, imagine. And service provider is, let's say, .NET or Java application. Can mean requester is Pega application, service provider is .NET. Pega application maintains all its data which is flowing in the system in the form of clipboard pages. .NET application will have .NET variables, object plus variables, right? So Pega application, when it sends a request, as it is clipboard structure, if the clipboard page plus properties, if that is been handed over to .NET application, can .NET application understand that? Yes or no? .NET application cannot understand that. What is the reason it cannot understand? Because it doesn't know what is clipboard, what is page property. That and all .NET doesn't know. .NET to understand and process it must be in .NET object plus variables format. So .NET here it is .NET object plus variables, right? Then only it can understand. imagine .NET application is sending one response back to Pega application. .NET application has sent its own object plus variables format of data to Pega application. Pega application has received it. Can Pega application understand that response in order to process it further? Can it
No.
understand? Pega application
No.
cannot understand .NET variables and all, right? So there is a possibility that each of the application cannot understand their other applications language. That is the problem. Now you take two persons, okay? A person from India who knows only Telugu language, and I mean like he generally speaks by his mother tongue, okay? And let's say a person from Italy who knows only Italian language, okay? Then how do they communicate with each other? They can't understand each other's language. Then how do they communicate with each other? In order to make this communication established, we need a foreign language which should be known to both of them. Usually that is English language, right? So when they communicate with each other in English language, then it will be understandable. Okay, now let's think about, as an initial learner, you're not an expert in English, you're expert in your mother tongue, okay, and they are expert in their mother tongue. But for both of you, it is very early stages of learning. You're learning how to speak in English and how to understand English language and all. Many of you might have experienced this if you have studied in your mother tongue. Okay. See, usually at the initial stages, how it happens. Suppose I am learning English language. I can only understand Telugu. I'm just a learner. Okay. I'm talking to an Italian now. So if I have to say something in English language, my mind works like this. I have to imagine about what I wanted to say. That I have to frame everything in my mother tongue first. So that comes up in my mother tongue into my mind. Now my mind is going to translate that from my mother tongue to English language. That I am going to speak out. You find the slowness there. Okay. And now the same is the case with Italian also. Now Italian is going to receive this English language, right? When he hear that, his mind is going to take that English language, it translates into Italian and it will be processed. Clear? When he want to respond back, he's going to respond back in English, right? He framed the sentences in Italian internally in his mind. He translate that, his mind translated into English, and he speaks out English. The same thing will happen at your end. When you receive English, your mind will convert into your mother tongue. You will better understand that. This is the process of learning for a human being. Correct? Everyone following online? Yes or no?
Yes.
Okay, so this is how usually it will work. Correct? So the same is applicable in technology also. So if two different applications of two different languages have to communicate with each other, there should be a common data structure required. Data structure means format of the data. Common format which is understandable to both. You understand it, but you cannot process as it is. Processing should be done in your own mother tongue. You understand it, it will translate in your mind from foreign language to native language, and then native language will be processed. That's how it works. Going forward, the process will speed up. That's it. But coming to the technology, the same is the case. Pega application has its data in clipboard format. If it is sending a request of this particular data, how it has to send? Same clipboard it will not send. Clipboard data will be translated into common data structure. Common data structure. Clipboard data will be translated into common data structure. Now .NET application will receive common data structure, right? It will translate this common data structure into .NET objects plus variables. Means common data structure it will read and it will assign it to .NET object plus variables, and it will process. After processing, output will be generated, right? It will be in .NET format or common language format. Generated output .NET format only. Output that is getting generated will be in .NET format. Now what is that .NET application has to do? It has to convert from native format to common format and send across. Now consumer will be receiving common data structure format. Can consumer application directly process it? No. It will again do the translation from common to native. So native to common, common to native. How many translations are required here? Two
Two.
translations. Required at both ends or only one end? So if the system is a consumer system or service provider system, no matter, both ends we need two different translation techniques to be implemented. That is common language to native language, native language to common language. These two techniques have to be implemented. Okay. So native to common, all this is generic terminology. Native to common. So this is called as streaming. What is this called as? Common to native. This is called as parsing. Means parse stream. The techniques are stream technique from your language into another language or streaming. You have taken another language stream and parse into your own language. Understand? So let me open a diagram now. Okay, this is the diagram, web service diagram. See here. Okay, see here now. So this is the application, Pega application. This is .NET application. This is .NET. This is Pega application. Pega application, when sending a request to third-party system, means service provider, it is send request of common data structure. I told here it is XML format. It may be XML or anything. Some common data structure format, which is understandable to both. So now Pega application converts from clipboard to XML language or common language. Converts from XML clipboard to common language and sends a request. Now service provider will receive common language, right? Then receives the request in common language format, translates that into native format, and then they will process. They will generate the output. So when they generate the output, that will be in common language, right? Generated output in .NET format, that will be again converted into common language format and sends a response back. Now consumer application will receive a response in common language format, which will be again response received will be in common format, which will be translated into native format. Understand? These are the two techniques. If you using Pega, you can implement your application system as a consumer as well as service provider. Pega application can be a consumer application where it is going to consume third-party web services, or within Pega application you can create web services, expose it for some other third-party systems to consume it. Means if you are creating your Pega application, within Pega application a consumer related programming or service provider related programming, any of these two, you must be having these two techniques implemented, like converting from PRPC clipboard to common data structure to clipboard structure. Clipboard to common data structure is called as stream technique. Common data structure to clipboard is called as parse technique. Everyone clear so far? When I am asking you, you respond by unmuting. Okay, I mean like if you are those who wanted to repeat or something, you have to respond by unmuting. I don't see that chatting window every time.
Okay.
Can you please repeat?
Okay, so this is about general concept of data transfer. Okay, next level. See, the web service concept has been implemented by many different vendors. Many different vendors have implemented so many different web services. Web services doesn't mean that it is a service by its business. It is a web service by its architecture. Every web service should follow some architectural design and every web service should follow certain protocols, rules and regulations, all that. Understand? So in order to create a web service, we can use different protocols. In order to implement web services, we can use different protocols. In your day-to-day life, what is the protocol that you regularly use? What is the regular protocol that you are using in your day-to-day life? Every once in a minute you will be using it. HTTP protocol is the one which we will be regularly using. What is the purpose of HTTP? What is HTTP abbreviation? Hypertext Transfer Protocol. What is the purpose of it? In order to communicate
Secure
with
the
applications over web. So on an internet web, if you want to communicate, if your Chrome application has to communicate with Google application, you would be using HTTP protocol. If your Chrome application has to communicate with any bank application, you would be using HTTP protocol. S stands for secure, that is not mandatory. Okay, so this is how you're going to use HTTP protocol, correct? Okay, so that is one protocol using which you can implement web services. And other than HTTP protocol, we have different protocols available to implement web services. SOAP stands for Simple Object Access Protocol. REST is not actually a protocol. People claim that this is an architectural representation. That is representational state transfer, not protocol. I'm sorry. Okay, people are not calling it as protocol. Representational state transfer, that is an architecture. MQ, message queue, Java protocol is there, .NET is there, JMS is there, Cobra, COM, like this, there are hundreds. Most widely being used these days is REST architecture. Most widely being used is REST architecture by the industries because of its lightweight processing and all. And if you go past 4 years, most widely being used was SOAP protocol. SOAP protocol was most widely being used past 4 years before, but since past 4 years, organizations started using REST architecture for web service design because of some advantages. Okay, so now if you join a project, you may have either SOAP or REST or both. Okay, let's talk about SOAP first and then we'll go with REST later. Okay, SOAP is the protocol using which we can come up with creating a web service. When you are using SOAP, there are certain things that have to be followed. Okay, let me close this and open another one. You see here, SOAP service. So whenever you have a SOAP service, imagine you are a service provider, someone else will consume it. You have to create a SOAP web service, right? When you create a SOAP web service, using SOAP protocol, if you create service, a SOAP protocol supports only XML data structure. Only XML data structure. If you design a web service, if you create a web service by using SOAP protocol, what is the common data structure? XML. If someone has SOAP web service which you wanted to consume, what is the common data structure that you should be using? XML only. Okay. SOAP stands for Simple Object Access Protocol, which supports XML data structure format for exchange of information. Understand? Now, so Pega BRPC is a, let's say, consumer. So Pega application data will be in clipboard format. Using SOAP protocol, it has to send request to third-party service provider. Clipboard data should be converted into which format? XML format and sends a request. XML request will be received by .NET application. .NET application translates this XML into .NET variables and then it will process and it will generate the output result in .NET format. Generated output which is there in .NET format will be converted into XML format and sent across as a response. Now Pega application receives XML response. That XML response should be converted into clipboard data structure for further processing. Understand? So two techniques are needed when you are dealing with SOAP. Converting from clipboard to XML, converting from XML to clipboard, right? .NET God. I'm talking about PRPC. So whenever you are working with SOAP, converting from clipboard to XML, converting from XML to clipboard. This is what? Clipboard to native, native to common, common to native. Native to common means what is the technique? Stream. For this purpose, we create a rule called XML stream rule. What is the rule? XML stream.
XML stream.
What is this technique called as?
Parse.
Common to native, parse. So for this, parse
Parse.
XML rule. Parse XML rule. Here it is XML stream rule, parse XML rule. These are the two rules which we would be creating. Everyone clear? Whether your system is a service provider or whether your system is a consumer, in either of the cases, these two rules are required. So far, everyone clear? Online resources.
Yes, sir.
Just give me 2 minutes time. Hold on. What did we discuss so far from the beginning? We understand about generically what is a web service. What is web service?
It's interface between two applications to exchange the data.
Web service is a software program which is an interface between two different applications which is going to establish communication between the two applications for the exchange of data. Whenever you are dealing with web services, you should be using some protocols. Protocols could be, it can be SOAP or Java, .NET, MQ, COM, Cobra, or it can be an architecture of REST. Most widely being used are REST and SOAP. Okay, REST is representational state transfer architecture. SOAP stands for Simple Object Access Protocol. Everyone clear? After that, we discussed about SOAP. SOAP supports XML data structure as a common data structure. So whether your system is a consumer or a provider, two techniques have to be implemented: native language to XML, XML to native. Native to XML is streaming, XML to native is parse. This is what we had discussed. Furthermore, see, a service is being created by third-party system. Someone has created a web service. Now I want to consume the web service from my system. So how do I, where do I start? Suppose I'll ask you a different way. You have a Google, right? Google application. Google application is there on Google, and you have a browser in your machine. Now you wanted to communicate with Google server. Where do you start? What do you need in order to communicate? You need
endpoint URL.
browser. I have a browser. There is a Google server, Google application. I wanted to access the Google application from my browser. What do I need?
URL of the service.
I need URL. What is a URL means? What is URL stands for? Universal resource locator. Universal resource locator means a resource is there anywhere in this universe connected in a network that will be located by this particular string that is called as URL. The URL that you see is a masked one. Google.com is a masked one. What is the original one? It may be like IP address 142.20.15.168. Not exact one. I'm telling an example. So for every server, for every application that you deploy on a server, there will be an IP address for that particular. If you want to hit that server, you need IP address. Is it possible to remember IP addresses? You cannot remember. That's why that is being translated into, masked into a string. You use this string, system will convert into IP address and sends a request generally. So web service is created, web service is installed on a server. Now I am a consumer, I want to consume the web service. What do I need from the service provider? What do I need? How my application is going to interact with web service? In order to establish the connection, my application has to send a request to web service, right? So how my application is going to interact with web service? What do I need for that? మీకు web service అంటే ఒకటి, application అంటే ఒకటా? Just now you told you need URL, right? You don't have that common sense now to say URL. Once again, you told when I ask about Gmail or Google, you told URL is required. In order to consume a web service, what do I need? That is also one program and application, right? This is the problem in learning. You don't connect anything. You see everything differently. You think web service is something beyond your applications or something different than your applications. Your Google application is also one web service. They're providing a service of search engine. You should start thinking in a wide range, connecting everything. This is where we missed fundamentals in our college. That time I left about what is URL. Now I am struggling to learn the technologies. Where is this concept of URL when you are learning HTML programming, when you are learning networking concepts? In the subject textbooks, first lesson it will be there. We never read a textbook and a lesson. We always depend on all one question and answers. We get 90%, we don't know anything. This is the problem with engineering students especially. Recently there was an article posted. Every doctor in India is a doctor by examination and marks, not by the subject. They don't know anything about the subject. They know only marks, exams and all. They are doctors now treating humans. That is the recent things that are happening. That is a big problem. Every engineer also same thing. We will buy only one all-in-one. We will read question and answers. There also we will fail. And finally we'll blame engineering is difficult. We will never look at a textbook at all. We don't even know what is the textbook, who is the author. We don't even know the lesson. What is there the subject? We never tried it. That has not become a practice for us. When it is not becoming a practice for you, you cannot learn it. That is not possible. The same is going to apply in your further career ahead. That's why in software companies are really, we have to just pray them like anything. They are paying salaries for people who do not know even ABCD. Out of 100 resources, 95 resources, they don't even know basics of technology. They are software developers. 5 will be handling this 100 and helping this 100. Is it true or not? You are managers. Many people are their managers. Tell me. Frankly speaking, I have seen so many people like that in my team. They don't know anything. They don't know basics of technology, but they are working on technology. That is the problem. You don't know fundamental concepts, then how can you be a developer? We never study a textbook anytime. We never read a textbook anytime. So now the struggle is not for developer. He will get his salary. Manager will be struggling a lot. HR manager will be struggling a lot. Your tech lead will be doing all the tasks of all employees. One person will be handling remaining 9 resources. This is the case everywhere, in every company, every project. Without help, we cannot work. That is a big problem. This help is for lifetime, not for today, because we do not have that ability or interest to learn by ourselves. That has not become a practice for us. The practice is we wanted to depend on our tech lead. Team lead is there. Team lead means he has to help the team. Who told team lead has to help the team? That is our ideology. Team lead doesn't have work. Tech lead doesn't have work. Your manager doesn't have his work. So this is the problem. Learn the fundamental concept. Try to connect the dots when you are learning from point 1 to point 2, point 2 to point 3. You are learning everything independent as a question and answer only for the exam and interviews. That will never give you knowledge. One can never be successful in that way. Okay, so in order to locate a web service, in order to consume a web service from one application, we need a URL, because web service is also something like Google only. So, but the specific terminology that we are going to use in the concept of web services, instead of saying simply URL, we say it endpoint URL. What is it? Endpoint URL. This particular terminology will be used in the concept of web services. Generally, what do you call URL? You're calling URL. That is also endpoint URL. Means the point where it has to connect it at the end. You start the URL here. It is going to hit some other end where the actual resource is being located. Okay. So this is called as endpoint URL. Whenever you wanted to consume a web service, you need to ask the service provider, what is the endpoint URL? Give me. First thing. And let's say I am the service provider. I created a web service at my end. I want to expose this service to outside world. What should I provide them? Endpoint URL I should give. This is the endpoint URL, take it and consume. This is the first case. And second case is, Google, in order to access Google and get the service, do you need to log in or not required? Is it required and mandatory to log into the Google server to access its services? Yes
No.
or no? General thing.
No.
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 Google is authenticated service. In order to access Gmail, you need to log in.
Yes.
That is authenticated service. That is authenticated service. This is unauthenticated. There can be authenticated service. There can be unauthenticated service. So what is that you want further for authenticated and unauthenticated services? Username, password, optional if it is not required if it is unauthenticated. Username, password is required if it is authenticated. You want to consume an authenticated service. You got a URL. Is that fair enough? No. Additional to URL you need to have username as well as password. Okay.
Password.
And you are trying to access unauthenticated service. You got a URL. Is that fair enough or not? That is
Yes.
fair enough. Yes. And next, similarly, you are a service provider. You wanted to expose your service. Authenticated service, if you are exposing, you provide endpoint URL, username, password. Unauthenticated service you are exposing, you give only endpoint URL. Only these details are any additional. I know Google service, I have URL. Do I have to know about what to send to the Google? Do I need to know the purpose of Google or not? What input to be provided, how it functions and all I should know or not? The same way, a consumer should know about the functioning of the service before he start consuming it, and also the input data that has to be sent. So there is a service which provides taxation information. How is it going to provide taxation information? Whenever the consumer is going to send a request by tax ID, mentioning some tax ID. When it receives tax ID, then it comes to know about what to send back. If you don't send tax ID, then it doesn't know what to send you back, correct? So the request parameters also you should know. As a consumer, when you are designing your system to consume a web service, you should design at your end what are the request parameters. What are the request parameters? Without knowing request parameters, only knowing about the URL, username, password, will I be able to start doing consuming? Not possible. You should know about request parameters. I have to send tax ID. I have to send my PAN ID. Then I will be getting a response. Or only sending PAN ID also, I will be getting taxation information probably. Okay. So like this, one should know about. Is it only request parameters you know? Then it is okay. No. You should know request data structure format. Data structure format. You cannot send your own format. Service provider will design a specific format of XML. Look at here. I'll show you how an XML looks like. Let's say, for example, I'll draft it here. Look at here. What is it? Let's say request. This is the open tag. Request. This is the end tag. This is the structure. In this, I want to have, let's say, what is that? Tax ID, right? Okay. I want to have another tag, actually, parent tag. Let's say citizen. Done. And next, furthermore, I'm going to have another tag like tax ID. Tax ID. Let's say T1234 tax ID. I'm sorry, I have to connect this. This is the request. The request structure that you're going to send should be in the same structure. This is the value. Okay. So this is how there will be a specific structural design for request as well as response. As a consumer, you should know about the URL. You should know about optionally username and password based on whether it is authenticated or unauthenticated. You should know about how many parameters are there in the request. Look at this request, how many parameters are there? Only one parameter is there. What is that? Tax ID. You should know that you have to send the tax ID. And apart from it, you should know the exact structure defined by the service provider. If you are service provider, you will be designing this structure. Understand? So this is how you should know about the details. So I know about all this. I have sent a request. I'll be receiving response. Now what should I know further? I should know about response parameters, what I am going to receive from them, response data structure. When I know about all this as a consumer, I should be able to start consuming. Without knowing all this, you cannot do anything in your, you cannot design a consumer system from your end. Understand? So being a consumer, you should know about the endpoint URL of the service provider and username password of the service and request parameters and request structure, response parameters and response structure. When you know about all of this clearly as a model, you should be able to start working on it and design your own system. Okay, you designed it. Okay, you have designed the system from your end. You got the system designed. Now you can start consuming and everything is being done. And now all of these details, whatever you have in this notepad that I was mentioning here, all of these details are related to one web service, correct? This data describes the web service. This data is going to do what? Describes. All these details describes what is its URL, what is username, what is password, what are request parameters, what is request structure, what are response parameters, what is response structure. All these are describing a web service, correct? So all this together as one language, you call it as web service description language. What do you call it? Web service description language. This value will not be there. Okay. It describes the details about the web service. That is the meaning. Describes details. WSDL is a some set of XSD. Some set of XSD, which is details, some set of details which describes the details about what? Web service. That's why it is called WSDL, web service description language. If I provide all of these details, if I am a service provider, if I am going to provide all of these details, will they be able to take this data and start consuming? Means design their system and start consuming? They do. But how do you transfer this data to requesters? Usually, when you are working with SOAP service, web service description language, meaning that the details, all the details of web service, you do not provide by email or you do not provide simply by any other mediums. You make a document of all of it. Means all of this data you create in XML structure. All of this data you would be creating in XML structure and make it as a document. That document will be placed in a server. Suppose there is a document in a server. How do I access the document? What do I need in order to access the document? There is a document in third-party server. I want to access the document and download. What do I need? I need
Location.
మీరు ఎప్పుడు డాక్యుమెంట్స్ డౌన్లోడ్ చేసుకుంటారు ఎక్కడి నుంచి?
Yeah,
What do I
location
need in
URL.
order to access? Not, you need a
URL.
URL. If I know the URL of the place where it is being uploaded, I can download it, right? So what people will do is this web service description language will be created into one XML format, placed in a file. That file is called WSDL file. What is it called as? WSDL file, because it has WSDL, web service description language details. Okay, so WSDL file will be placed in a server. WSDL file will be placed in a server. Once you place it, you will get a URL, right? This is called as WSDL URL. This is called as what? WSDL URL. So WSDL URL contains a file. The file contains web service related details in XML format. If you download that file, you will have complete details about the service which you want to consume. So now any SOAP service that you create, you have to generate a WSDL URL for that. In that WSDL URL place, file will be there. Instead of providing all this data separately, what you can simply provide? WSDL. So whoever wanted to consume my web service, please take this WSDL URL. Okay, once you give them, they can download the file. They will get the details. As per the details, they'll start writing their program for consuming. Understand everyone clear? These are all fundamental and basic things and universal concepts about web service and SOAP service. This is not only related to Pega. Don't think like it is only there in Pega. You're working on Java, .NET, any technology in this world you are working on, these concepts are universal. The concept of web service, which I have explained at the very beginning, That is a universal concept. And the concept of SOAP service that I have explained now, that is also a universal concept. Everyone clear so far? So this concept we have to get into reality by using some technology. Java can implement this SOAP, and Pega can implement this SOAP, .NET can implement this SOAP, mainframes can implement this SOAP, every other technology can do this. Okay. Everyone clear so far?
Yes, sir.
Okay, now here you go. See, now you are a Pega developer. You wanted to create a web service. First, we'll deal with creating web service. When I am trying to create a web service, okay, when I am trying to create a web service, so what are the different rules that I have to create? First of all, you should have an application with you and classes should be there. And now you are trying to design a web service. You create classes, okay, comma. What else you need? Properties, comma. What else you need? Sections. Sections ఎక్కడ వస్తాయండి వెబ్ సర్వీస్ లో? Classes means you should create everything under some class. Properties means to hold the data, and you need to create web service, correct? That is, if you're using SOAP service, this is what one thing you need to create. And whether you are a service provider or consumer, I told you two techniques have to be implemented. What are those? Translating
Stream
the
XML.
Streaming and
native language to XML, XML to LAN. So native to XML means clipboard to XML can be done by using XML stream rule. XML stream rule you have to create, and parse XML rule you have to create. Parse XML rule you have to create. See, imagine about any web service. Suppose if you want to access the functionalities of an application, you log into the application, you click here and there, and you access the functionalities. But web service is not human accessible. Web service is the program which is there in the web. And what is the invocation point? How a web service gets invoked? How a web service gets invoked? Suppose if I want to execute a flow, I log into PRPC, I click on menu and click on case type and choose begin insurance. That is the invocation point. Similarly, web service also should have some invocation point, right? What is the invocation point for web service? What is your guess?
activity.
Some action we
I'm not asking about Pega. I'm asking about generally there is a web service.
user action. Some user action.
Invoked. It gets
User
invoked
action.
by user action where?
I mean, like,
Entering
let's say if I enter some value and inquire, and it will go back to the web service and get the details required.
Yes, it is from a third party place. It is from a remote place. A remote request will come and hit the web service. Web service start executing, correct? Is there any manual intervention in the web service server? Anyone going to log into web service related server and invoke the web service? That is not going to happen. A third party requester from somewhere will be sending a request to your web service. In the server, web service will run. There is no need of login, all this. I mean, like, as a human, server program is there. Program will be invoked on the web. That's it. Over the web, it will be invoked. So you need classes, properties, web service, XML stream, parse XML rule, and processing has to be done. It will be done by activity. These are the basic rules. Other than this, any other additional rules depends on your requirement. Now, the service will get invoked. What is the order of execution out of all this? What is the order of execution? You can guess it simply. Imagine a third party system has sent a request to the web service. What should be the order of execution? First, web service will get executed. Web service is being executed, started, execution started. And then it takes the input, right? It has to convert the input into native XML. Input will be XML format. That XML it will take and convert into its own native language. Which rule will get executed in case of service? First rule is after web service, parse rule. Parsing is done, means you got the data, request data in clipboard format. It has to be processed. What is the rule? Activity. Generated output should be converted into XML. What is the rule? XML stream. This is the order of execution of the rules. Now I will ask you one question. You know about access group? What is an access group?
It's an interface between operator and application.
It is an interface between operator and application. And what else?
It defines
Portal
which
and
rules.
access roles. All of this. What is the role of an access group in PRBs? You told interface between operator, application, all this is okay. What is its role further? How an access group is going to play a role in PRBs?
It will
Authorization.
make sure run on that particular access group.
It is going to decide what is the application to be loaded for an operator, what is the portal to be loaded for an operator, what is the different level of access on which the rule should be executing. Every rule in Pega should run on some access group. Without an access group, is it possible to run a rule? It is never possible. Without a primary page, is it possible to run a rule? Without a primary page, no rule can be executed. Without an access group, no rule can be executed. You remember this. Okay. Now, a web service is created. Web service is going to get a request from third-party system. Service will invoke, execute parse rule, stream rule, activities, all this. All these rules should run on some access group, right? Is there any operator ID? If you are an operator, if you log into PRPC and access anything on your access group, everything that you are accessing will get executed. If you run an activity, your operator ID access group will be taken on which the activity will run. Okay, and if you run a flow, the flow will get executed on your access group because you logged in and executed. But here there is no login. User ID password may be there, but for a user ID password there won't be any access group, right? Now, if a web service is invoked from third-party system, when the web service rules are getting executed, it must need an access group to run all these rules. That will be supplied by another rule called service package, which I will explain you tomorrow. What is that? Service package. As of now, for you, service package supplies the access group to the web service. That can be any service. That is the one of the key role of the service. There is no human operator, right? In case of web services, then how the access group will be supplied? Access group will be supplied by another additional rule called service package. Whenever a web service is being invoked, first web service will start and then service package will start. These two are connected to each other. When web service is executed, from the service package, it will retrieve the access group and it will start executing parse rule, activity stream rule, and any other rules on that access group only. Actually, at the time of beginning this itself, service package will supply the access group. Everything will run on that particular access group. Everyone clear? Okay, these are the basic rules to be created. But where do you have to create this rule? Under which classes? That is another question. Work related, you are creating under work layer. Data related, you are creating under data layer. Similarly, I log into any application. What is that? Any application, okay, no problem. Because I'm not going with specific to your application only. It's a very generic thing. ఏంటి చెప్పండి నేనేం యాక్సెస్ చేస్తున్నా యాక్సెస్ గ్రూప్ హోల్డ్ ఆన్ what is it I'm trying to access? Classes, correct? Okay, you will be doing it under integration classes. Integration classes derives from the rule set int. What is that? int dash. It is not only integration class, but rule sets also integration rule sets. So we are going to start using integration classes and integration rule sets. Okay, from now onwards. So similar to data is there at organization data, framework data, implementation data. Integration classes are also there: organization integration, framework integration, implementation integration, organization integration rule set, framework integration rule set, implementation integration rules. All these are available. Everyone clear? So under this particular layer, under data class, you created a number of classes, right? The same way for integration, under this you will create a number of classes. Under this layer, if you have 5 classes, means you have 5 services. That is the meaning. Okay, for each service one separate class you would be creating under this class. Okay, not exactly this class, under integration layer. Okay, everyone clear so far from the beginning? So we discussed about what is web service generically, like universal concept. What is SOAP service universal concept? To implement SOAP service in Pega, we need to create the rules: service package, service SOAP, and XML stream, parse XML, activity, classes, properties. All this you would be creating under integration layer, integration rule sets. Integration classes will be derived from OOTP class int. Make sense?
WSDL file.
So power has gone. I'll be sharing the documents related to
So WSDL
only
file also one of the thing, right?
only activity
Harsha?
group can process. Who told we should not create activities? Did Pega say that you should not create activities anywhere? Did Pega say anywhere you don't create
No,
activities? Then why you typed you should not create activities? It's not that you should not create activities. Up to the
reduce
maximum
using.
possibility, avoid writing your own activities. You use OOTP activity, okay, no problem. You use alternate rules, you create, no problem. But maximum possibility, you avoid it. It is not because for guardrails. There is a specific reason for it. Why Pega tells to avoid activities? Try to find out the answer for this and tell me tomorrow.
Yeah, hi, hope you understand the topic. If you like our videos and support us by subscribing to our channel and share these videos within your connections to let the people understand about what is Pega and help them to learn best or best in Pega. And please don't forget to subscribe to our channel and don't forget to hit the bell icon for notification. Thank you so much.